Hello, welcome back. Josh, may I start this video with just a frank, how are you? How did you sleep? Good morning.
I'm good.
Mhm.
I'm good. I slept well. I had dreams
Yeah?
of a parallel world series 11, where the Corsairs there, where the Lipari are in the Good Doctor, where Mr. TARDIS wrote an episode of Doctor Who. I was dreaming good.
Good on him. Good on
I
him.
was dreaming. Oh no, that was our last video.
Wow, what a good video. What a good world. We're not going to hold your hand. I trust my audience. You can go back and watch that video. That was Series 11. Today, we're going into something a bit more controversial. Because Series 11 is a harmless season. So any changes you make are also probably going to be quite harmless and small. Series 12 is where the conflict starts. And this is a big rewrite. Series 12 is near unrecognizable. I think I'd just like to read it up front. Would you like to take it away?
So let's go through the running order here, because I feel like it's going to send heads spinning. Episode 1 of Series 12. Can you hear me? See, big changes already. Then we have the comic, The Warmonger.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Legend of the Sea Devils.
Woo!
We'll talk about that. Then we have Praxius.
Keeper.
Then we have another comic, Herald of Madness. Then we have this is going to send some head spinning. Spyfall
in the mid-season.
Spyfall mid-season, 1 part, no master. They were the notes. Then we have a 2-parter, which is The Haunting of Villa Diodati and Ascension of the Cybermen. That was the one that shocked me the most. We'll get to that.
Interesting.
Then At Childhood's End, and then Mistress of Chaos, with a little cheeky Revolution of the Daleks at the end.
I think we've got space. Okay. Initial thoughts on that lineup.
I think when I read it, I went, wow, that's wild. There's definitely parts that I love, and there's definitely parts I am indifferent to.
Okay, I'm excited because this is a bit of a hodgepodge of episodes. I'm trying to follow the philosophy of Series 11 again, which is just capers.
Yeah, I got that. It's definitely more Series 11 than Series 12. It's definitely more standalone sort of adventures with little loose threads that tie in at the end to tie these together as best as I can.
I do introduce my first story arc of Jodie's run, which is pretty daring for me. But what Series 12 really gets me down in the dumps with is the fact that it's all... If you're looking for stuff that isn't tied to the series arc, you have about 2 or 3 stories.
It's been like 4 years since we had just sort of like a standalone, normal episode of Doctor Who that wasn't lore heavy or big special event that was written by a showrunner. Like Jodie's era is good for bringing in new writers. I like how you call them capers. I think it's fun. It's very Scooby-Doo of you.
Obviously, the main bulk of what's different here is that I've scooped the Timeless Children out, not because it's the worst thing humanity's ever seen, just because it's antithetical to the kind of story I'm trying to tell. I don't need a big Gallifrey lore epic. I instead just want to focus on the Scott Gray Doctor Who magazine stuff and what I think is a very me thing to do. Because this is a 4/5 loosely connected adventure that we're going to see a couple times in this list, and I'm super excited for that to be the bulk of Jodie's first big interior challenge.
I don't really have many strong feelings on the Timeless Child. I love filler, but you have slotted in some nice standalone stories in between to build sort of a whole series. I do like that element of it. You've done well.
Nice. I appreciate that. I think it's cool that these seemingly unrelated adventures do come together. You don't know which ones are going to be relevant for the season finale, and it turns out to be this one, this one, this one, and this one. And that makes you feel like every single one of these capers is as important as each other.
Yeah, because any of them could pop up at the end. Yeah, no, I like that. That's fun.
Yeah. Remember how I said I wanted Yaz and Ryan to have more conflict than they do in the televised version? I want that to be like kind of the main source of drama in series 12 because, like I said, I don't want the Doctor getting too mopey or angsty. I don't need her giving snippy lines of dialogue or bullying Ryan constantly. So I'm going to have the two kids do it. It makes way more sense to me as complete polar opposites who do, still like each other and get along. But that's the thing with traveling in the TARDIS. The designated driver may not be acting like it, but the stakes are so high.
Yeah, conflict is key to that, in my opinion. I feel like having a 4-person TARDIS team and having them not really argue that much, it's not very realistic.
4 in a box just isn't going to work if they're all so passive. And it's not to say there isn't drama and tension in Series 12. It's just the kind that I don't think gives them much agency. I see potential in what Yaz and Ryan take away from this series, and the show never really quite gets there, not in text. But when I wrote for these characters a few years back in Blackest Friday, I thought that this would be the right time in their journeys to start really getting to know each other and really start picking apart each other's ideologies. And because they're friends, it's not going to be like Perry and Six. It's not going to be Adric and Tegan arguing right off the bat every season. No, they get along. But Yaz is still the authoritarian on the Doctor's shoulder, and Ryan is still the freedom fighter on the other.
Yeah.
I think Graham has to take the backbench a little bit as a result. He's a finished character from It Takes You Away, last season's new finale. So let's have the supporting character as a supporting character, quite literally. And that's why we're starting with a story that actually is interested in the TARDIS team. A rare thing in the Chibnall era.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest. Can You Hear Me is an episode that I've sort of been so on. And you, under this, guys, have made me really, really like it. It's so much better for being a series opener, I think, because do you focus more on the lore stuff or the character stuff? And this is the character-driven episode of Series 12. This is the big character-driven episode, and that's why I think it should have been sort of front and centre.
I want to kind of leave it as is.
Like, you're not going to put this kind of story at the start of an era. Like, this wouldn't work at the start of a Series 11, but right in the middle of a run, this is the perfect series opener, in my opinion.
Because they're already on Earth. They're already taking a break from the TARDIS, catching up with their friends. So that's kind of what they've been doing since we last saw them. We can assume they've been on Earth with us ever since. I'm thinking we get an extra detail from each. We learn that Yaz was a possibly suicidal runaway at one point of her life, and she's happy to be here, which is
and all
mega.
That stuff's great. It's so well played and so well done.
I think you campaigning for keeping the Witchfinders was a very smart choice because that goes into Yaz's bullying. So it's been established by this point. We see what might have led her to the edge. Yaz is a person who has never had any friends, and that's a detail that never gets brought up, even though it's so interesting.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? She's now sort of thrown into this sort of makeshift friendship group, and it's the most unconventional friendship group you could be part of. Like, it's some random guy she went to school with, his granddad, and then an alien who travels in time.
A woman who I kind of love, but also I haven't been in this situation before, so what do I do
Exactly.
here? Is it normal to want to kiss my friends?
Yeah, if that is Yaz's story. The Graham stuff's all good as well.
Here's the thing about that I'm too socially awkward to help you with your cancer thing. I think we can remodel that to fit into our new series emotional arc for the Doctor, which is, am I an agent of change or stability? Am I part of the status quo? Am I a good person because I bring chaos to situations that need it? Or am I a good person because I bring order to things that need it? And Graham having cancer doesn't fit into either of those camps. So she kind of feels useless to impact actual meaningful change.
That's interesting.
It's in the text, man. Can you hear me? She says she admires the humans that can open up and share their feelings, but she can't currently do that.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's good.
It's good. It's just they keep replaying that beat for the next 2-3 years. Now, of course, our Doctor isn't keeping any secrets. Well, she's keeping one secret, but it's not the one you think. Gallifrey is alive and well somewhere. We're not even touching Gallifrey, actually, in this, are we?
No,
Good.
and I quite like that.
Good.
I'm just happy to leave Gallifrey for a while. I don't really have much interest in going back home. I feel like it sort of goes against sort of the mission statement of Doctor Who. So that's quite refreshing, to be honest, to have watched basically 3 series of Jodie Whittaker Doctor Who.
Regeneration, Revelations.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're not really diving into all of that lore stuff.
No, and I'm the same with Davros and the Master. I'm just kicking the can down the road for the next guy. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Take a break. You've earned it.
Ryan, what do we do with Ryan's nightmares? Because obviously his nightmares.
Yes.
I feel like actually that's probably one of my points there.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. So what Josh is saying here is that Ryan gains a fear specifically from Orphan 55 of climate change and the world being unsalvageable because of mistakes people are making in the present, blah, 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 blah. We don't have Orphan 55.
Yeah.
So I'm actually looking through Series 11 and maybe Resolution is getting him paranoid about the here and now.
Is it microwaves? Is it microwaves? Is Ryan scared of microwaves?
It's microwaves. It's Jack Robertson. Jack Robertson appears to him in his nightmare and says, "I'm going to run for American president."
You joke. That could work because one of the last things we see in Resolution.
We have had Rosa.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking about, because I just think Jack Robertson, because then like you mentioned before, Ryan basically leaves to go and become an activist.
I think it's a must for him. I don't want Ryan if we're not doing that ending.
Yeah, and I feel like you can probably keep the climate fear and also just bake in a little bit more of the what the fuck is happening politically back at, like we've got people like Jack Robertson trying to run for president. We're in an era where you sort of just have to muck in now. Because it's all just fucking chaos, and I like the idea that
we've got a supervillain cliche monster of the week.
Exactly.
After meeting civil rights leaders in Rosa in Series 11,
yeah,
that's perfect. Actually, I like that a lot. Even if it's super on the nose, good.
Fuck it, why not? I like it.
He's seen lots of bullies in power. Let's put it that way.
There's even talk of a revived presidential run for you.
Well, I can't really answer to that.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, I can.
But yeah, keep everything else exactly as is. It's a series opener designed to check in on our characters and see how they're doing, how they're coping with the journey. This will get the ball rolling on Ryan and Yaz's place in the TARDIS, and the Doctor feeling existential about her purpose. Because remember, this series is about what Doctor Who can and cannot do. As a character, as a show.
It works. Can You Hear Me works.
Episode 2, onto space and time. It's the Warmonger from the pages of Doctor Who magazine.
I am sounding the siren. This is the siren of Sam is spending the entire budget on one episode again. Oh my God. You've basically brought me in to be an accountant and just go, you cannot afford this. You can't afford this story. I mean, it's very good. It's a very good story.
You're just right. I don't think this series has as big a budget. I think there's a few massive CGI set pieces.
Yeah.
And some travel costs when we go country hopping. I looked back, Series 11 doesn't have any of the stock standard Chibnall country hopping. We don't do any globe trotting, but Series 12, I want to be a big thing.
No. Well, there's a bit in Hidden Human History. Hidden Human History hops about time zones a bit.
Time zones, but I'm thinking like James Bond going from one continent to another.
Yeah, and we'll get to that.
That's going to happen.
We'll get to that.
It's going to happen all the time in Series 12. No thematic reason. It's just neat. It's a neat thing Chibnall does, in my opinion. Warmonger is a giant Jack Kirby Marvel story.
It is, yeah.
Where two giant armored robot aliens are fighting each other and causing like cosmic devastation.
Mm-hmm. I like Doug Bolter.
Yes, in this we meet a long-running comic character, Doug Bolter's daughter. So technically it's a new character, no prerequisite required, but it's a nice little nod to the past and Doctor Who's big comic history, which I don't know if you've noticed, I'm implementing quite a bit here.
Yeah.
The Warmonger is a pretty standard first Doctor, first story in the strip, first one in the magazine sort of story. It's quite safe, but it's got this really nice element of the media.
Yeah.
It's like a better the long game, where we're seeing news coverage of all of this happening. And that's going to stay pretty relevant too. We introduce a robot journalist who Ryan ends up hooking up with.
Oh, yeah.
She's going to become a little series regular.
Yeah, I like it. I can go for it.
She's good. I like her. Ryan did not fumble.
There's a version of this story where it's a lot less interesting because it's just two big robots having a big fight and they have to try and stop the robots. But the media element of it is where all of the beef is for me.
This giant traumatic tragedy of a forever war between two giant titans is being treated as a sport. So they're letting them use the cities as a fighting ground. They're letting them wreak havoc because it's making them money in the news coverage. And there's a very simple kind of children's tale solution to it, as the Doctor fuses them together into one body.
Very nonsensical, but it's very cute, and I like it.
bizarre ethics at play there. But war is over. It was a draw.
As John Lennon sang.
Yeah, love that song. And all the robots stopped fighting.
Dog Bolter, Baraka Dog Bolter, as I've now Googled. I want to play casting because I was intrigued and I'm trying to think who could pull off a big, bulky green lady with big red 80s hair.
Who's quite classy. Maybe one of the many actresses we've put out of work with scrapping most of Series 12.
No, oh yeah. Who's in Series 12? I'm trying to think.
That's a great question. I'm thinking Abigail Thorne of, Philosophy Tube fame. She's an actress in her own right and in some big high drama stuff. I think that would, give us the theatrics we need. The story also in the finale has the Doctor appearing as a giant hologram head and scaring the cheering populace.
Oh, that's a great bit. Yeah.
It's a great bit. She's telling off an entire planet's worth of viewers, which gives her a less than stellar media presence. There's a nice accidental parallel in here to the way that the papers at the time were viewing Doctor Who.
Mm.
And it's so funny that a big, giant female Doctor head is just looking down on them, shouting at them, telling them off. I think it means that, because we're going to come back to that later, the show can be in communication with what's happening in real life, in the reception of the program itself. She-Hulk did that a lot, if you know what I mean. It was predicting what the reactions to the episode were going to be each week online.
Yeah, and She-Hulk also had a big green lady.
Nice. Oh, that's who we get, Tatiana Ma.
Yeah. So Docky Who's going to shout at you now.
I'm the Doctor. Don't ever do this again. Get your jollies somewhere else. I'm going to be watching. That's what she says, and it's sick.
Exactly.
If you want your Dark Jodie moment, there you go, right? The Warmonger's really interesting because it's Scott Gray's take on the 13th Doctor without having seen anything about her character, hadn't seen a single episode, not even one of those little press booklets you get.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I'd see they had nothing when they wrote this.
And Scott Gray characterizes everyone great. They're not generic. He's not playing it safe. He watched Trust Me. He bought a couple of their works. He watched a lot of The Chase to get their mannerisms and tone of voice down. And he just wrote a functional fam.
Yeah.
Scott Gray's the man.
If I'm going to take away one lesson from this thought experiment, it's that Scott Gray is shit hot. I mean, when you came on my podcast, you put Scott Gray in basically a Hall of Fame thing in the Corridor of Fame. And I now understand why.
He wrote what might have been my first Doctor Who story in The Flood, and he's written the best Dalek story, the best Cyberman story, and perhaps the best Master story.
Ooh, that's a bold claim.
On to the controversial one.
My first note that I have written down is, Sam, what is this doing here?
It's Legend of the Sea Devils.
That was my one question.
We can take this out. We really can.
Look, I can fix him. That's what I'm coming in with this energy.
Okay.
I really wanted to like it, and I know that it does have its fans, and that's good. I'm glad that people do like it. Unfortunately, I am not one of them.
No, me either. Legend of the Sea Devils has a very good starting block. It's introducing a lesser-known, interesting woman of history who probably hasn't had her story told as much as she probably should have. Just a cool era. It's going for a good look. It just keeps changing and doesn't have the budget to back it up. Sea Devils and Pirates at Sea. Cool. Chinese pirates, cool. The reason it's here, frankly, is just because I need a nice, steady historical story. And if I can make an amendment, let's make it War of the Sontarans.
Okay.
I say this because when we get to the specials in the next video, Flux is going to go through a couple changes. I'm taking it to the shop. It doesn't need War of the Sontarans. So we have one of the highlights of the era just sitting there going spare.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I didn't know about that.
Do you like it?
I do want to keep War of the Sontarans because it's one of my favourites.
Okay, sorry for making you watch Legend of the Sea Devils again.
Yeah, no, you're all right. I mean, my other idea was did we decide to bin off Combat Magics from Series 11?
We did, and we replaced it with the Witchfinders.
Because Combat Magics could go here.
Okay.
Also.
Interesting. There's lots of places War of the Sontarans could go in the specials.
Yeah. I like Combat Magics here. And also, then we don't have to do jumping rings around to try and cram Ryan and Graham in. Because they're already in Combat Magics. I mean, because one of my issues with Legend of the Sea Devils, it's a 13 Yaz and Dan story, but we're slotting it into a Graham and Ryan era.
Which frankly wouldn't make that much a difference. But if we keep War of the Sontarans as is, we can have Bishop as a one-time star, a guest star.
Exactly. My favourite part of Legend of the Sea Devils is Dan. So if you remove Dan, then...
Bradley Walsh says all the same stuff. You can just swap them out interchangeably.
Then you've also got Ryan there, and then it's just, you've got to split their lines between them. Okay. So then they're basically just going to be on a ship doing nothing while the rest of the story is happening. All the Phasmin stuff's great, though. I want that somewhere else.
The romantic stuff can come in anywhere. Yeah, Combat Magics. Yaz and 13 spend all of that together, split off from the others.
Yeah, so that's good. I like that. So it's basically like a similar dynamic, but a different story.
I'm going with you. This is good. Can You Hear Me? The Warmonger. And then Combat Magics. Present, future, past.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke a bit about Combat Magics in the last episode.
It's effects heavy.
It's another budget buster.
If there's a cheap version of it, it just becomes like an old school historical. But if you have the magic effects, it's a lot of fun.
But I also don't mind that because this era does old school historicals so well.
It's back in. Let's go to the fourth installment. It's my favourite Praxeus. I'll fight. I'll die for this story.
Bang on, no notes. I agree. And I don't get the hate that it gets. Why do people not like this story? Because I see a lot of people not like this story. But
I don't ask.
It's got a lot of Chibnalisms in it, hasn't it? Because it does a lot of...
He's a co-writer.
Does he co-write this?
He does, and I think you can tell which parts of the script are his.
Yeah, you can, because he's jumping countries every 30 seconds in this story, and I like it.
And the little Graham asides. Yeah. It's I think Chibnall's best script he's done for Doctor Who. Is that crazy? Oh. I think I believe that. 90% of power free.
Maybe. I mean, it's definitely up there. I like it.
Nice.
There isn't really any connective tissue that you need to change in here because it's so standalone.
No. Even if you don't like Praxeus, I think it does serve a purpose being here because obviously this is 2020, this is going out. It is culturally significant that this came out just before COVID.
Great little side characters. They're all very memorable.
It's funny. Yaz is funny. Ryan's funny.
Graham's got a lot to do. I love the astronauts, the astronaut and the guy with the fists. I just like it all. Yes. I don't really have anything bad to say about it, I don't think. Maybe I'm underestimating this story. Maybe it's even better than I am thinking that it is.
Yes. Maybe let's pair Yaz off with the astronaut instead. We can give Graham the funny moments about thinking he's discovered a planet. And we can have Yaz, as a parallel, appreciating the romantic partnership of the astronauts.
Yeah, I like the idea of Graham getting paired up with an influencer as well. I think that's really funny. There's a lot of comedic potential there.
Yeah. Oh, come on. That's obvious, right?
Yaz being with...
the cop.
Because we mentioned last time about sort of Yaz becoming disillusioned with the police, which sort of happens, but they don't really talk about it that much because, I mean, she's obviously not a police officer by the end of the era.
For it to not come up in Revolution of the Daleks is crazy.
You know, that's a good little bit of conflict with the cop guy.
Does that leave Ryan with the Doctor?
Yeah, I like that. That works.
Yeah, it's nice. They don't have much bonding time, really. Let's give them some more. They are an adopted son and mother, and we do need to kind of land that before series end, I think.
And where are they? They're just sort of hopping around everywhere, aren't they?
On the beach.
It's just good.
It's just good. Fuck
telly,
you. There's a talking cat in Ontario.
Maybe that should come back in later. Let's bring in the talking cat. That's the flux. That's the flux we made along the way.
I think the social media influence character, is there something to be done with the news there? Probably not. I want the news, I want the media to be covering Praxeus more.
Ooh, yeah, that's good. And also, I'm just reminded of something a change that we made in Series 11, that we made Ryan a vlogger.
Oh.
And Ryan being aware of them would be good.
Ryan does meet the vlogger eventually. He does meet her later in the story, let's say. And let's just say he's come to the point where he thinks she's a bit cringe.
In his head, he's like the ultimate travel vlogger. He's just not allowed to post it anywhere. And I also like him being a little bit jealous of being able to be free with it. And maybe that's another little element of maybe his time is coming to an end because he wants to go home and just travel around.
I was going to do basically the same thing, but have him realize I'm sort of beyond this. I don't want to just have a neutral position in the world like you and just live it for likes and subscribers.
Yeah, well, you can do both.
Yeah, of course you can.
Both.
Yeah. He just doesn't like the vlogging. He doesn't like the influencer sensibilities he's seeing and that he used to have himself. And that, that's the warmonger again. So that's good. I'm really going to push the press angle just because it's nicely meta. The question of Series 12 now is, what is Doctor Who for in the country? What does Doctor Who add to Britain and the world? There's limits to what Doctor Who as a show can do, but it's not going to stop it from being loud about it. Let's go to the past. A freaky monster past.
Herald of Madness. This is really good. I think this might be my favourite of the comics that we've dived into.
The Doctor and company arrive at Castle Huska. That's a real place in the Czech Republic. It's a landmark drenched in myth and history, and there's a giant convention of astronomers. But then it gets a bit freaky with monster madness. And there's centaur people and all sorts.
It also contains, and I've just Googled the pronunciation, Tycho Brahe. So there you go.
Lovely. He's here, if you wondered.
Yeah, and he's just a very fun presence in this. It's very Alan Cumming in The Witchfinders, and I feel like we need a big guest star. We need someone to bring that to life. And I'm trying to think.
Should we do a gender bend just to piss people off?
Could.
We're sort of overdue one of those. Remember, we want to piss off the general populace here. It's part of the series' MO.
The only thing about that is I don't want to... He's got a magnificent moustache.
Ooh.
Magnificent. And I don't want to lose that.
Not mutually exclusive.
Very true. I mean, we can have a woman with a moustache. Just someone who can do big. Someone who can do big and a bit of a knob.
You love Matt Berry. Is this Matt Berry's job?
Oh, Matt Berry could do this.
A riotous nobleman, astronomer, astrologer, alchemist, swordsman, and drunkard. Yeah, we got him.
That is Matt Berry, isn't it?
We found his role. We found his role.
I did double check. I think when I was doing my little scoring system, because I'm a big nerd, I did give this the best score of all of the comics. I like this one a lot. I think my only bad note was that is there a Potter loving? Do they talk about Harry Potter a lot in this?
That they say when they get in, like, oh, it's Hogwarts, which is cringe.
Just bin all that shit off.
It's 2020. There's no excuse, Scott.
Bin all that shit. You've got giant fire monster Jodie Whittaker in this, and I want to see that on a BBC budget.
Herald of Madness can be our costume drama this season. It's based around a real historical mystery. Those are always great. And it's also our first introduction to the series arc. It's not our first introduction, but it literally introduces Mother G, who is a strange character hovering around the series and throughout the comic, who I adore.
Well, isn't there some kind of theory about Mother G? Who is Mother G?
You were in my Twitter DMs asking me about 2 years ago.
I was, yeah.
Do you care to take a guess?
I have no idea.
Is it a legacy character? Come on.
What are the go-tos? It's not Susan, it's not the Rani. I don't know, is it Stephen Taylor?
So Mother G is only implied to be. There's no answers. Mother G is God.
Oh, nice. Oh, she's just God.
Hanging around some stories. And now there's a couple allusions to this, obviously. She can fly the TARDIS just because she talks to it and says, hey, you owe me a few. She seems to know everything. She is magic. She's a great character. And I think Scott Gray putting her in the bank to explore later because he didn't get quite as much time with the 13th Doctor as he would have hoped, obviously. Pandemic.
Yeah.
So put her back in. God's here.
Yeah, she can be here. Yeah, Mother God.
Hey, we don't have Joe Martin anymore.
Oh!
If we age Mother G down, do you think we can get Joe Martin back in?
Oh, Joe Martin would be so cool. Bringing Joe Martin in to play God? Yes.
I think that's way better than a kinder Doctor. And sadly, as things were left, she should have been the next Doctor, but, you know. I'm tempted in the specials to regenerate Jodie into Martin, but that's me being naughty.
I mean, that would also be a very cool reveal.
We're not going to do that. I think getting to play the first canonical depiction of God in Doctor Who is a lot better than getting to play the fugitive Doctor.
We'll let Joe decide. Joe can make the decision.
Joe, we've got 2 scripts. Do you want to run with Fugitive of the Doctor or this entire series arc we've written up?
I'm happy to let Joe have that. Joe can have that moment. We'll let her pick.
She can have the show if she asks, honestly.
She might just say both, and then we can just do both.
Yes, please. Okay, we're getting a bit carried away here. Yeah,
we are. We're going on a tangent. Let's go wild.
So let's bring ourselves right back down to Earth and back to Earth with Spyfall, Part 1.
Yeah. So this is the one that required the most amount of brain power to try and reimagine.
Where are you at with it?
I like both. I like Spyfall as it is, and I like this idea of Spyfall too. It was just very hard watching a 2-parter knowing, well, the episode that's being pitched and that I'm going to have to talk about does not exist here. It is a very different episode. So you've pitched to me, it's a 1-parter without the Master.
And it's mostly the Spyfall Part 1 James Bond send-up.
So it's mostly Daniel Barton and the Kasavin.
Yes, completely. We don't need all the other time periods. They really are just as strange. And it's sad to lose Noy Nayat Khan, but I don't really want Chris Chibnall writing her in the first place.
Okay.
So...
I mean, I love the Master reveal. It took me right back to my childhood. I was watching Utopia again. Obviously, I know it's not the most, refreshing new off the page thing, but I did have fun. I did have a good laugh.
It's not the cleanest. It's not the smartest reveal. But it got me. It got us. I refuse to believe there's anyone who had figured it out.
No, I don't think anybody did. I did have a lot of fun with it. Running around my house like, oh my fucking God, on New Year's Day. That was fun. But I think there's a version of this that can work without the Master, if you want to do that. But I like the Master. I wouldn't mind the Master being here just for a one-off. I feel like we don't have the Master just pop up as a one-off enough. A mid-series, just the Master's just being silly. I think there's a version of that could work. If you're going to do it as one part, shift all the focus to the Kasavin, because I think they're a really solid idea and they're actually really scary.
You like the design, don't you?
I love the design. I really, really love the design. It's just a big light. It would be scary if it was sort of human-shaped lights, but because they're...
Teletubby shaped.
Yeah, and they're like shaped like the Vord. Do you remember when everyone thought they were the Vord?
Yes, I do.
That was a fun era.
That was a low point.
Yeah.
The shot well, the actual practical effects of how they did them, I still think is crazy.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I would like to change a few things about them. I don't think we need them to be cruel. They we took this form to mock you, and that just feels like dropped in from another villain monologue. I like them as just cold, mercenary spy guys, a whole species of intelligence gathering. They're just lying in wait.
Yeah,
they're gathering intel, and that's enough. Taking out the planet's intelligence gathering abilities is a bit narky. It's a bit of a narky story. The stakes aren't particularly emotionally interesting. Oh no, not MI5. But it would shake the world. It would put humanity in the shit. It's a cool one-off.
Yeah, I think making them like spies, because they don't really have an actual motive for being involved. Are they using Barton? Or is Barton thinks he's using them?
Not terribly fussed.
Yeah.
He's just the big Bond bad guy.
Are we giving this too much time?
I think you need a Bond bad guy and a Doctor Who bad guy, because I think I've said stuff like this before. Oh, okay. When Doctor Who did genre play with superheroes, the villain of that story was a Doctor Who villain. It wasn't a superhero villain.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so strange, because there wasn't anything really for the superhero to do. We've got a similar problem here if we don't have Barton. So we need a baddie for the Doctor to defeat, and we need a baddie to defeat James Bond style, and that can be Barton.
If we're going to keep anything from part 2, I like the time hopping.
Oh, right, okay.
I do like the time hopping stuff.
Do you think there's space?
I don't know. That's my only thought.
I want to put Noriniak Khan in here because, history with spy, but I want to cut out the history of the computer.
Yeah.
I think it's a detail too many. And I know Barton runs a tech company called Vor, but we can change that as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like...
be a CEO of anything.
I feel like we're getting into the realms of, a complete rewrite territory, basically.
Yeah.
From start to finish. Because I also this is me getting obsessed with connective tissue between stories, and just having Ada Lovelace here and not using it as connective tissue to Haunting of Villa Diodati really irritates me.
Yeah.
My silly little fan brain is like...
No, you're right. You're right.
And I like the idea of having the lone Cyberman tease here instead, because obviously we don't have Future to the Jadoon, because it makes so much more sense for the lone Cyberman to be warned by Byron's daughter, who obviously has had the story of what happened passed down to her, and then it's a bootstrap paradox. So why was that not a thing in the first place? Because I just like that a lot more than Jack popping up and going, hey, here's this thing that I have no way of knowing about. Be wary of it.
I got a prophecy for you, Doctor.
Whereas you literally have a person who was in that story's child 10 episodes earlier, and she can just say it. That is literally my only reason for wanting Ada Lovelace in there, if I'm honest.
No, it's a good link as well, to be honest. I think that's the beginning. That's the pre-title sting. I think we're seeing the end of another adventure. That way we can still get the information out there, the Ada Lovelace link, and maybe they can talk about it in the final moments of hang on.
Yeah.
This ties in with what Ada Lovelace said at the beginning of the episode. I know our next destination.
Yeah, and maybe as well, there is just an element to the plot where, Daniel Barton is doing spy things and doing evil James Bond villain things.
He's an MI5 leader, right? Let's just make him an MI5 leader. Fuck it.
Yeah, but with a little tiny twist. Maybe he's hopping through time, taking things that he needs. There's a version of that could work. But anyway, I do think if there's a flaw to Spyfall, in my eyes, it's that it loses a lot of the fun James Bond charm in part 2. So if you cram it all into one part and just make it a caper, let's bring back the word caper. It's a fun caper instead.
The C word.
Yeah. Oh, God.
We don't need Stephen Fry. I think keep O, but actual O.
So just not make Dewan the Master, just make Dewan O.
Dewan's a fine side cast character, and
Okay.
I think people need to remember how much they liked O
as
a character. Not better per se, but that part was super functional. I like Sacha Dewan playing within his range and wheelhouse.
Stop it.
There's my one bash of the video.
I'm sad about his loss here, but you know what? If I get a fun James Bond caper, maybe I can trade it in. That's fine.
Well, here's the tricky thing. Sacha Dhawan's Master is the element of the season I've toyed around most with in my head. Whilst it was airing, of course, I had fan theories and I've had post-headcanon since, cool what ifs. But a lot of them do result in he's not the real Master. And so, so it comes across as canon denial. Whether it be O was a bad guy impersonating the Master because, you know, he works for UNIT or some shit like that.
That is a fun idea. I'll give you that. I think
the idea of a human pretending to be the Master and fooling the Doctor is cool. Just not here. And I also had this crazy crack theory dream about everything in series 12 was in the Solitrax dimension. And that could explain why the fugitive Doctor has a TARDIS and calls herself the Doctor. And it looks like a police box, and why the Master is around and he's doing all these crazy things. And it felt like the Solitrax is still playing Doctor Who with the Doctor. And I thought there's potential there. We've got a character who wants to move on, and this childlike dimension is like, no, play with Doctor Who with me. And that would involve all the old elements doing the same old things.
That's wild, but I do like it.
It's wild. It's too far flung from an actual good narrative. So I think we keep Sacha Dhawan and forgo the Master this time.
Okay. Well, it's your call.
Hey, fuck it, Sacha Dhawan. He can appear in the next guy's era. When Russell comes back after me, he can do Sacha Dhawan as the Master. Fuck it.
Yeah. Well, that's if you ever let go. You know, your stranglehold on this show.
Well, I'm not going to let go because it's mine. Okay, this is getting a bit silly. So off that link, off we go to meet said lone Cyberman. Now, of course, this is a two-parter kind of in the middle of the series. It's not the finale, so the lone Cyberman is less of a big deal. But it's cool. It's, like I say, nice linking tissue. It's nice that we've had the next adventure hinted prior.
I like having Spyfall, Deodati, and essentially the Cybermen be three very, very different stories that are basically a three-parter just in the middle of the series. It's sort of like the Monk trilogy, but just a bit more separated.
Yeah, or better, we hope.
Yeah. I like it. I like having Haunting and Ascension here. I think Haunting doesn't really need anything doing with it at all. I was quite shocked that you put it in, to be honest.
Yes, I'm quite of a notorious hater.
Yeah,
on that part.
I was like, when I saw it, I was like, well, I didn't expect this to be here, but maybe you have changes.
It's just the ending monologue.
Oh, I like it.
I know. I just want to change some words. I want to change what Alderton is trying to say there because it just doesn't fit into this vision of the 13th Doctor remotely. I'm not interested in hierarchies. I'm not interested in the weight of the Time Lord. I want to get as far the fuck away from that as possible. I don't need it to be like a class revenging story. We don't need to address the fact that the Doctor only cares about the threats once important people are put in danger. That's the problem of Villa Diodati for me. But I don't, fuck it. It can just go unsaid. That can be part of the thing that's pissing off Ryan and pissing off Yaz. Traveling in the TARDIS isn't actual social injustice fighting. Part of it is keeping the social order of history, keeping the law intact. And that, of course, relates the Doctor to later, which is like, am I a force for order or chaos? In this one, order. Fucking order.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I like that. That's interesting.
But she doesn't have to be a dick to say that.
I think a lot of people call this like the best of the era. I wouldn't put it that high. I think it's the right level of scary. I really like Ashad. I think Ashad is really good.
Well, Ashad's getting more of the focus. He's got a two-parter about him now, not one story and then kind of gets lost in the mix.
Especially having like the little Spyfall. If we keep the little lone Cyberman tease and put it in Spyfall instead, then you've got a lot of mystery there. And you can get Ada Lovelace to sort of play that up a bit.
And we don't have to kill him. We can have a potential new villain for future writers to run with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
because
that.
he's had a big entrance and introduction. It'd be weird if we just shrank him and killed him randomly.
Yeah, I don't really get why they kill him in the first place anyway.
Don't be afraid, little one. You will be like us.
Ascension needs more work, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, hey, we've got enough runtime to work with now that we're taking out all the Brendan stuff.
I think there's enough of a story across Ascension of the Cybermen and then all of the Cyberman stuff in the Timeless Children. I think there's enough to build a story out of that. Yeah, we just need a new ending, really, don't we? Because you just don't want the ending on Gallifrey, and you don't need the...
I've got the ending for you. Hey,
go for it. Go on, I want to hear the ending.
The ending is just the Doctor resolves it via chaos to make up for last week's mistake.
Ooh.
So she goes from one end. She does something that should be kind of against the rules of the show, and let's say she just ends the Cyber Wars prematurely.
Ah.
So she's breaking the rules, and she's bringing chaos to, in this instance, a Cyberman fascist regime, because they've won, basically, at this stage of the war. So she's doing the thing where she arrives, disbands, takes down the society, a civilization. She's being Chaos Doctor this week. And to do that in a two-parter, make it that obvious a theme, it's going to be super important later, because it's going to get manifested literally.
Yeah, no, that's good. I like the idea of the Doctor sort of having a very similar resolution to both parts of a two-parter, but from very different angles. From one angle is, I have to protect this part of history, and the other angle is, oh no, fuck that, let's blow up this part of history.
I made a mistake. It got worse. So
yeah,
let's try the other approach.
Yeah.
And this is, of course, Ryan and Yaz the conflict could come back of Yaz wants order, Ryan wants the chaos route. I think it kind of writes itself. Plus, my dad really liked Ascension of the Cybermen. So that's...
Really? That's sweet.
Yes, he loved it. He thought it was great. For someone listening who wants the Cyberlord still in there is no harm in doing maybe a vision sequence of the future, a little glimpse into the future. I think a Shard's plan should be, there's a lot of defenseless Time Lords out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I like your regeneration. That's still a cool motive. That's a cool plan. Whether he enacts it in this story or threatens it in this story or next time, yeah, who knows? I don't want to get rid of the Cyber Masters without the Masters. Shad starts regenerating in a post-credit scene.
Yeah, that's a good image. Imagine a post-credit scene of Ashad starting to regenerate, and then he comes back in Ascension and he's like, yeah, I'm a big beefy boy.
The Cybermen need a big guy, I think. They need a new figurehead to mix them up a bit. And the concept of Ashad on paper is very good. What sort of person would it take to walk headfirst into the conversion factory just for honor? That's crazy.
I slit my children's throats moment. That's a very good moment.
Yes, it is.
And it's chunky, it's beefy, and it's very scary for the kiddies.
The Doctor has Siberian god powers for a story. What is she going to do with them? Okay, yeah.
I like it.
And it can be lower budget as well. It can be lower budget. I don't know how much those stories cost.
Really? It's a bit of a cyber warber.
Some flying Cyberman heads.
Oh yeah, I like those. I love that opening shot, the one where it's just like flying towards the Cyberman's eye and then goes into the title sequence. That's just wanted to drop a little bit of appreciation for that because it makes me tingle.
Isn't it so cool how we can take these achievements made by others and just collate them, and now we can sort of like call them our own? Yeah, we want that shot, and we want this part of the villain, but not that part, and this comic.
We're playing Mother G here. Oh, I'm excited to talk about this one.
I don't have much to say about this. I gotta be honest, of all the ones I've placed in here, of the Legend of Sea Devils, this one is the least motivated.
Okay.
I don't think I have very good explanation for why I put At Childhood's End here.
I do. It's because it's good.
Awesome.
It's very good. It's a very, very, very good book. I want Sophie Aldred to write an episode of Doctor Who now because I think she's really good and she really gets the Doctor. If there's one thing that I prefer Sophie Aldred writing Yaz than I do Sophie Aldred writing Ace. I think Sophie Aldred nails Yaz in this. I feel like you can feel that Sophie Aldred genuinely really loves this era.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she really likes this TARDIS team.
We've got a previous cast member writing an episode. That's a first.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
If we don't count Noel Clarke.
Yeah, I really liked how Ace was handled in Power of the Doctor, and I feel like it's just that, but taken to another level and a lot more depth. Would we bring back Sylvester McCoy for a flashback scene just for fun?
Feels like yes, right? It feels stupid not to.
I like the idea of doing these massive things that just feel like things that you would say for a finale, but just whacking it in like episode 7 of a series. And I like the idea of just dropping Sylvester McCoy back in for a few scenes because he's needed and because there's a good story to tell. It's a good idea. There's
2 ways to handle Mr. McCoy. It's either do that Pokemon thing where he's there and he's talking and he's in the frame, but we don't see his face. His face is always out of shot or obscured in some way. I think that's cute. Or we just start the episode like it's a Sylvester McCoy episode.
Oh, what would do the title sequence and everything?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's fun. I'm being really silly here, and I'm saying let's do the title sequence.
Sure, it's going to be interesting for kids. I think it's probably, you know how Closing Time is a sequel to The Lodger. I think this is kind of a sequel to last season's Old Friends.
Yeah. I like that.
We have one point a season where we introduce a character that the Doctor is familiar with, and we focus on kind of how Yaz feels about it. Whoa, that's strong. I really like the Power of the Doctor, but spoiler, it's gone. We're not doing Power of the Doctor anymore.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I've got to convince you yet, boy.
I love Power of the Doctor, but I want to cut it up for scraps, and I want to put all of the companion, or I want to put all the Yaz development in that, at Childhood's End, and I want to put Tegan and Ace's dynamic with the Doctor, feeling left behind, all that. I want it in here because I think that's a super interesting part of why Yaz eventually leaves. In a couple episodes' time, she's going to meet Jack, and Jack is going to tell her very straight-faced, "Look, I loved the Doctor. Enjoy the journey whilst you're on it." So she needs the parallel if we're not doing Power of the Doctor. And I think in Ace and Tegan, you have 2 people who have kept waiting for the Doctor or been done dirty by her, and they just waited. They kind of just kept waiting. And I think Yaz needs that moment to realise I'm looking at my future self if I don't make a change.
Yeah.
It's coming quite early. Listen, I'm not saying it's a fast revelation. She's going to spend the specials basically coming to peace with this. But she needs to meet Ace and Tegan, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. So are you putting Tegan in this?
I don't think Tegan's in it, but we'll give Tegan's beats to Ace. Is that character assassination, though? Oh, no. Hang on. I'm wrong. Ace didn't have a romantic relationship with the Doctor. We need a Tegan type in there. Damn it. We need someone who could have felt that.
Well, don't worry. Because I'm going to sell you on bringing back Power of the Doctor.
Fuck's sake. All right.
Like, in the next video, we will be discussing Power of the Doctor, and we will be bringing it back, whether you like it or not.
You're so confident.
I am.
Okay, watch this space.
You've got a bold, brash Josh today, shouting the odds. No, but...
You let me ditch the Master. I'm really surprised about that. That was an easy fight.
No, I did. I would have liked to have kept the Master.
Then you can watch the version produced by BBC Studios.
Yeah, I'm keeping the Master. I will be bringing him back in Power of the Doctor anyways.
Okay. I respect it. I like it.
By part 3 of this trilogy, we will be having physical fights over Power of the Doctor. Yeah.
The talk.
We'll get to that.
And that takes us on to the season finale.
Yeah. Mistress of Chaos.
A sinister figure is terrorizing the galaxy, and her name is the Doctor. The confrontation on Venus hurls the Doctor and Graham into a cold, dark world ruled by the one enemy even she can't defeat.
Yeah. It's really good.
Sorry, yeah, I just winged that, right?
Yeah, you did, yeah. I mean, you should write those for a living. You're very good at that.
Thank you.
Don't get to stories. Don't write the stories. Just write the synopses.
No. I wouldn't dare.
Let someone else do the writing.
Sir, I wouldn't dare, sir. Crosby Davis, one blurb, please. I beg of you. Anything. Scraps. Okay.
Mistress of Chaos. It's good, isn't it?
It's really fucking good. It's probably 13's best story.
Ooh, that's big.
I love it. I love every page of it. Every page of it's got such big ideas. And you'll notice how I took out Series 12's innards and replace them wholesale with everything this story is trying to say.
Yeah.
Because I think it's enough to base an entire season of television around.
Oh, we've all seen that my silly little nerdy fan brain loves a bit of connective tissue. And oh boy, this is...
The links are coming together.
It all just ties neatly in a little bow, and I love it. It's just really good because you've got returning characters from everywhere, from all of the comic stories.
The Warmonger, Herald of Madness, Power of the Mobox, which, remember, I sneakily put into Series 11.
Yeah, no, you did, and I haven't read it, so I have no idea what you've snuck in.
There's a big stone guy, and he goes, okay. And they all look a bit like Korg.
That can be our Sharda. It can be our lost little non-existent episode that is out there somewhere.
Yes, even hypothetically, the cast and crew went on strike that week. That's a shame. But they're back. The Mobox, they're back. Yeah, so we've got the return of Baraka Dogbolter, introduced in the second episode of this season. It's the big return of Mother G meeting the TARDIS team. She's a time traveler, kinda. She's a cosmic being, kinda. She lives everywhere in time and space, which is interesting, but very humbly. And in this story, the fam, Mother G, and Dogbolter all wind up in a psychedelic fuck world. I mean, what other word is there for it?
Yeah, it's mental. It's mental. This is the thing that is actually finally, out of these two series, going to cripple the BBC Studios budget.
Maybe it has to be animated. I don't know.
That would be very cool. That would be very, very, very cool. Because I'm a big advocate for animated Doctor Who probably being the long-term future of the show at some point. So if we do a little tease of it here and just have an animated sequence in a live action story and just all of the characters just become animated for a while, let's do it. I'm in.
Yeah, I think it's time. We've already had an animated sequence back at the beginning of the series in Can You Hear Me?
Yeah.
So that was it. That was a run-on sentence. That's all I had to say. But I'm just going to read a second from the Chaos Pocket. Oh, God, the fucking Chaos Pocket, man. The TARDIS screams. Creatures beyond science, beyond thoughts, tear at her skin. We've got all of the cast members we've wanted to keep throughout the season. Looking at them defend the TARDIS as it's being ripped apart by just the most Marvel-looking Doctor Strange cosmic nightmares.
Yeah, it's very Doctor Strange, isn't it? And Doctor Who doesn't do that enough. If I'm honest, I don't really have any notes because I just think it's a really good finale for this run of stories.
There's no changes being made here at all.
Not really. No, it's just very good. And I just think maybe get a big name director to do this. You know who I want back in this era? I want Ben Wheatley back somewhere. Yeah, I think he just did very weird folk horror and then big Jason Statham shark films. So I think he's perfect for Doctor Who, and maybe give him an episode somewhere. Let's give him this.
I think, whilst we're being reasonable with budget, I think Peter Jackson directs this one.
Yes, that's good. Yeah, Percy Jackson.
He's wanted to for ages, but
let's get Percy Jackson in. The son of a god is a very good choice for this. Actually, yeah. No, sorry, Ben Wheatley. You've been sacked again. That's
a very good reason why he hasn't done that yet. And I wonder what it could be. I wonder why Peter Jackson hasn't directed a Doctor Who episode yet.
I would not be surprised if it comes in the future.
Really? Okay. That's optimistic.
Surely it's going to happen.
We've got a lot of big scale. We've got a lot of googly monsters going in this. Yeah. So we've got all of it. He can return to his schlockier roots. We know that he can work with micro budgets. But This was a joke, by the way, that I'm now rationalising.
No, you were right.
Could he work within a BBC budget these days? Probably not. He had god tools making the Hobbit movies. I remember reading...
Very true, but I feel like he loves Doctor Who enough that he would just self-fund it.
He can do schlock. If he'd made like really cheap schlock, it'd be fantastic still.
And now he's just doing Beatles stuff, so let's get him doing weird
Yeah,
things
The Hobbit destroyed his love for film. So sad.
Yeah, let's get him on TV then. Let's get him into TV.
Well, it's not winning me over.
Petey J, a little TV boy.
So back in the mid-season episode, Herald of Madness, we introduced a warped Jodie Whittaker. This was, in this story we learn, not an imitation. This was an embodiment of the Doctor's chaotic nature.
Very cool.
Yeah, right? Let loose into some twisted monster. We also meet a super sleek, super cool, how to describe?
Is it like is she like Diamond?
I am the sanity. Order will prevail. I am the apex. I am the nexus. The sanity is the exact opposite. She's the embodiment of the Doctor's rational attitude towards order. So it's a story of concepts. It's sounding a lot more abstract than it actually is. The story explains it very well in the way, a comic would. I understand, and all comics make good TV episodes. But this is just a banger script.
I can definitely see it working on TV. And I think now I'm looking at it, I really like this little run of 4 stories from Haunting of Via Diodati and Ascension of the Cybermen, where we've got the 2 endings that both sort of contrast and sort of represent like the sanity and the chaos. And then you've got At Childhood's End, which sort of delves into, the Doctor being a dick a lot of the time and the Doctor's flaws. And then you have this, and it's like now she's staring down an embodiment of herself twice over, and it's very cool.
How she appears to the planet she visits, and also to the viewing public. I'm giving her her own "Am I a Good Man" sort of arc, where she's taking apart the show, questioning it, and then like every single episode is like Series 8, like Series 9, I hope, is so like laser focused and tightly knit, where it's all about this theme being explored in different ways. The story comes to a great conclusion on it, but the answer is kind of just help people out. Stop thinking, get out of your own ass. And that's kind of the moral of Am I a Good Man? You just try, don't you? You just fucking try. And that culminates in the final panel of the story. Dog Bolter sees the Doctor for who she truly is, and she's like, my media company's going to know all about this. Everyone's going to know about what the damage you do to the world. 13 looks dejected, goes back to the TARDIS. She can't actually force her way out of this. She can't, even the Doctor can't change public opinion. You know what I mean? So she goes back to the TARDIS, and what's on the newscast? The TARDIS is showing the news, and it's all of the species and all these random creatures, all these big alien faces saying, yeah, the Doctor saved me. She has been declared an honorary centurion of the Mobox Empire. We were all going to die, everyone in the whole city. Then the Doctor stopped the soldiers. She saved us. The Doctor's a kind person. She's really brave. She rescued a whole Starliner, stopped quakes and got us all to safety, pulled me out of a Land Cruiser. She told us not to worry. There's just all these nice first-person accounts on the news about some off-screen adventures, some alien wacky faces, but a lot of the people we've seen in Series 12.
It's a lovely moment. It really it really hit me. It was really nice, and I just love that idea of she feels so defeated by this media empire that's trying to bring her down, which in the real world they were trying to do at the time and still are for some reason, despite the fact she's not been the Doctor for a year and a half. She's just getting constantly attacked by the media, but it just prevails. Her legacy prevails because she's just good. She's just trying, and it's really, really nice. It's a lovely ending.
The good-hearted core of the show shines through. And so the answer to the question, what is Doctor Who for, is answered, and it's quite simple. Here's a line from Sharon Allen, who is the reporter on this news piece. I was a girl when I first met the Doctor. Trust me when I say that the name means many, many things to many people in many worlds. A warrior, healer, scientist, clown. But I think most of all an example. If we stand up to something we know is wrong, if we expose a lie, if we reach out and help someone in need, then we can all be the Doctor. Saccharine as hell, but the look of contentment on Jodie's comic book face in this final panel, that's what you end a series on.
Yeah, it is a lovely end to a series. Like I really like these series finales that we've got in It Takes You Away and this, because this is obviously, it's a big story, and you know it's a scale wise, it's got a lot more going on, alien stuff, than It Takes You Away. But the ending is still very nice and sort of low key and just happy.
And Ryan gets laid with the robot lady.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Ryan with the robot lady, yeah.
King. He's 19. He's 19.
Dirty boy.
And we've managed to do all this, go through this big journey with the Doctor and interrogate the show in a bit of a Moffat way, yeah. We've done this all whilst doing serialized basic adventures. We've done it whilst refusing to take the Doctor to really dark places and have her question everything. No, she's getting on with it. And she takes the hits as they come because it's a new, fresh lease on life, even in the show's second, maybe slightly darker season. You know, she's developing as a character without having to go straight back into the curse of the Time Lord.
Be afraid, Doctor. Because everything is about to change. Forever.
You've sold me on this as a series a lot more than when I watched it.
Ooh.
And experienced it.
Yeah, a lot of it is in between the lines.
If anything, I want to go through it again, and I want to go through it with a different mindset. There's just some good stories in here, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's just a very good, solid series.
Nice little collection of other people's work, even if I have Frankensteined some of them. If I did have one season of Doctor Who television to make some sort of big statement about the show, it really would be just to appreciate Doctor Who as a children's character and what children's characters mean for culture. I think they're sacred. I think they are more mature than most adult media. I think they're capable of more than most adult media can provide because they're family heroes. They represent more. And I think the Doctor is the best example of that. But we're going to drop it. We're not returning to this theme with the remaining Whittaker adventures.
We've tied it up. We've tied the bow. It's done.
Because from here, we are actually about to take the 13th Doctor into dark territory. Actually dark territory.
Oh,
I'm sacrificing everything I've set up so far because I think the story's worth it.
Nice. I like it.
Let's just say there's a reason that the 7th Doctor has been in Series 12.
Ah. Ooh. Well, I'm intrigued because I don't really know a lot about this. I don't know what you're doing with Flux. I haven't really got anything there. So the next video is going to be wild. I feel like it's just going to be me, just you writing a series of Doctor Who in front of me, and I'm quite excited for that.
I shouldn't do on the internet because people shout at me when I do it, and then, especially when it does happen on TV, I get people in my comments saying, "I hope Russell T Davies pays well," and he doesn't. So I kind of don't want to do that.
Yeah.
These are super vague. I'm not doing any of the legwork. I'm just making these big, broad strokes. And hey, it's working for you.
You might be wishing this into existence. Maybe in a few years, Tossing Cole's going to come back and there's going to be a robot out there that catches his eye.
Interesting. That's the part they're running with? Okay.
And maybe that's going to happen in the show.